Hi, my name is Justin Cortelyou. I'm here at Soundstage Studios in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am a professional audio mixer, producer, and engineer. So I started working at my first studio actually right here at Soundstage Studios. I started off as an intern with Chuck Ainlay, and then that turned into a job being the night manager. During a session, I met Crystal Bernard, who was dating Mike Shipley at the time, and he needed some help, so he moved me to LA. So I worked with Mike Shipley for several years. He was my mix mentor. After that, I started working with a producer, songwriter, and artist, Tommy Henriksen, in LA, and we were developing artists. He was doing a lot of songwriting demos. And then during the recession, we decided to move to Nashville. So 2 weeks in, I ended up meeting Bob Ezrin, and Bob was looking for someone who worked in the LA style. And so we hit it off, and I worked with Bob Ezrin for about 10 years. With him, I got to work with artists like Fish and Alice Cooper, Kiss, Taylor Swift, Kesha, Andrea Bocelli, kind of all over the place. All of the mixing gigs that I get come from relationships. Artists, producers, other engineers, musicians, all of those relationships end up coming back to you in the form of mix work. So whenever I get a mix, I'll usually ask for unaffected multi-tracks at whatever this resolution is of the session. And I also ask for a rough mix, like I said before, to make sure that I know where they're going with their thoughts and what was driving them. So for me, I've got kind of a loose template just with my reverbs and effects and bussing and what I'm using for like my master and everything, just mainly as a time-saving practice. But if I'm mixing at my studio in the A room, I've got a whole lot of hardware gear. So I've got a patch sheet set up for different signal chains, and so I'll run the gear first through that, and to get the color, and maybe before the hardware insert, I'll put an EQ on there so I can clean up the low end or take out any offensive frequencies before I go into the world of analog and color and all of that. Once I get the sound that I like, kind of the broad stroke sound, I'll commit those, and that's my new starting point. And, I kind of get basic sounds. I start with the drums just because that's what I'm used to, and kind of work my way through and build a kind of a rough static mix and get the vocal sounding right and background vocals and everything. And then I try to find the musical elements within. And how do I accentuate those things? How do I make this mix exciting and dynamic? And, if it needs to be in your face, if it needs to be indie rock and distorted and, nasty, how do I do that? And that's where the kind of fun, creative part comes into play. And then once I feel really good about the mix, and it might not be finished, especially if I'm taking a few leaps of faith to where it's really good and listenable, then I'll send it to the producer, to the artist to get some feedback, or bring them into the studio. That's also great. And then we'll work together as a team from that point on. So let me tell you about Soul Train Studios. I was working with Johnny Reed, who's he's a very successful artist in Canada, and he lives in Nashville. And we had done several records together. He had this opportunity to buy the old Scruggs Sound Studios. And I was looking for a room also. So the studio is located in Berry Hill, Tennessee. It's a kind of an artsy community. We've got a 40-channel SSL 4000E, which is one of my favorite consoles ever. We've got 1073s, 1081s, 1066s, a bunch of API mic pre's. Each piece has a specific color in mind, and the room sounds fantastic. It's not huge, but it's not small, and it records bigger than it is. And the beautiful thing about it is that it's a private facility. So when you book it, you can get in there, relax. It's comfortable. Just sit there and be creative and let the music flow. And that's one of my favorite aspects of the studio.